Let's watch a CNN panel that's discussing this new watchdog report about January 6th and what happened, that in classic MAGA fashion, despite it actually debunking the conspiracy of it being an inside job, they haven't read it and are choosing instead to try and pick out whatever bits they can to try and ignore the actual conclusions and say, see, my conspiracy was correct. This is also what they did with the Mueller report, might I add, but I didn't have a channel then to push back against this, so here we are now. Let's get into it starting here.
It's actually not true that that there was anything in this report that suggested that, as Vivek Ramaswamy has said, that January 6th was an inside job.
Well, there are some things that the report has brought to light that Republicans have felt like they were misled on over the last few years, what they've had questions about who was there and what was going on there. For instance, Chuck Grassley in the Senate pointed out that 4 of the confidential human sources went into the Capitol but weren't prosecuted. Now, like 1,400 and something people were prosecuted.
Can I answer that?
And there was
for
another
one
one that had their so they're just little nuggets. Yeah, that's what's fueling some of this conversation.
Let me respond to that one because I think that's an important point. According to the FBI, the act of simply entering the Capitol, they did not charge anybody for doing just that. So if they entered the Capitol, that is technically an illegal act, but they didn't charge anybody for just entering the Capitol. They charge people for entering the Capitol and doing other things, assaulting police officers, for destroying property, doing all kinds of other activities.
So the report actually confirms that no employees or undercover agents were in the crowd from the FBI, but that it ended up being 5, but they coordinated with 3 CHSs, which are informants. Informants don't work with the FBI. They obviously typically engage in not the best behavior, which is why they can then provide information to the FBI and the cops in the first place. But what we learned is that the FBI found out about 5 informants who already planned to go. They told them, hey, why don't you report back with us with any information you find on these groups if you're going to be there? We've been investigating them. It's like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, because the FBI, again, were already investigating them for seditious conspiracy, but they didn't tell them to go. They didn't coordinate with them outside of this or anything. I mean, the report actually is like lambasting them for not coordinating with them, right? All of what they did, however, is just normal FBI procedures. Informants are not agents. And again, not being directed, nobody who just entered the Capitol was charged. So this is also a lie that just gets circled, like that people were charged for their standing around. I mean, it's another easily disprovable lie if you just look at the charging records. But and the report actually showed that Democrats did request for troops on the day, which another lie in this grand conspiracy is, well, Pelosi and the Democrats didn't request for the National Guard. It's because it was Antifa and Black Lives Matter and, all of this. And we now know that they did from this report. And instead, it was just Donald Trump who decided to do nothing.
There are people that are out there that are trying to spin what the truth is into something that fits a narrative. So yes, I can see how people can mistake an FBI informant for an FBI agent. That's why it's important that we tell people an informant is not an agent. And it's why it's important that people like Stephen Smith not go off on a rant like these are FBI agents when in fact they're informants. Again, almost every probably gang activity you see, drug sales, whatever, have informants, local police, state police, FBI involved somewhere in there. The best thing the Republicans can do now is just like put this FBI thing away into bed. It's a conspiracy theory. Completely untrue.
This is, again, one of those mind-numbing MAGA points you can only believe if you never critically engaged with anything. Like Adam said, informants engage in all kinds of illegal activities. Frankly, drug deals, plannings for kidnappings. And this does not mean the FBI is secretly behind these things because they have informants that are there. It's how the FBI operates to infiltrate them, gain whatever information they can to be able to charge them with something that sticks. It's better if you can charge someone with kidnapping rather than conspiracy to commit kidnapping, right? And the Republicans who are selling this, they know this, right? They know that this is nonsense what they're saying. They're just preying on people who aren't smart enough or just don't understand how the systems work to be like, well, if the FBI's were there, then the FBI had to know. So that means they had to be behind it, even though, again, non-employees don't coordinate with them. And it's all part of this, again, just elaborate conspiracy to make every part of January 6th seem less extreme so they can pretend their side like isn't domestic terrorist, anti-American, crazy conspiracy theorists, right? Like they were saying, oh, we were let in, lie. Oh, there were no weapons, lie. Oh, nobody died, lie, right? None of these things are true, but they help the narrative, so we should say them.
One of the rioters tried to use this report to claim that he should have his charges thrown out. The judge said, no, there's no evidence that this has anything to do with your case at all.
Yeah, I don't see them throwing out a case over this. But I mean, was this reported in the report that Adam Kinzinger did in the House? Did they report that there were 26 agents in there or informants in the crowd? I don't think they did, but they obviously might have known that.
Relevant? No.
Well, I mean, it should be part of the report. It's relevant now because
relevant,
people are talking about it now as saying it was hidden. Right, that's the point of what Stephen Smith's saying. Why are we just not finding it out?
About the January 6th committee was talking about what Donald Trump was doing and everything else. We weren't talking about whether informants in the crowd. Of course, there were. And I mean, look again. Any event anywhere probably has an informant for law enforcement somewhere. Doesn't mean it's an undercover agent. So
and also,
committee.
Just to add to that, I mean, if you really read the report, the FBI is actually kind of castigated for not properly utilizing their informants to find out what was going on that day.
And that's the crux of the report that I wanted to get to. That again is how I know MAGA did not read this report. They're just listening to people who did read the report and then just want to disingenuously represent what was in it. Because the report is largely coming down on the FBI for the fact that they didn't coordinate with these informants the way they should have, as they largely didn't know that they were going to be there. This was also rather a unprecedented event, and the FBI clearly didn't prepare the way they might have for another big event, and the report is like lambasting them for this. So the idea that this report proves they did coordinate with them, when it's like saying, hey, you messed up here for not, it's kind of funny. But Adam again points out here, hey, they're going to have informants at like anything that has almost thousands of people, right? Just because something breaks out doesn't mean now the FBI was behind it or knew it was going to happen. And to the Republicans' point about, the January 6th committee didn't release this. They didn't release the names. It's such a disingenuous point to, again, try to get people who just don't really understand these things, how the committees work, what this committee's purpose was, where they hear, January 6th committee, and they're like, wait, the insurrection was on January 6th. If this committee was about that day, then they should release anything about it. When the committee was specifically formed in regard to Donald Trump's actions leading up to and then on the day, and recruiting fake electors, pressuring state officials, inciting the mob, and refusing to call them off. And this idea of entitlement that the right has, that anytime they come up with a conspiracy theory, the government now has to prove it wrong or else they've proved them right. It's like so weird. Like if you make a claim, the burden of proof is on you, right? If someone attacked me, the burden to prove that is on me, not the person I'm accusing. Imagine if I just randomly said, hey, this person stabbed me. And because you couldn't prove where you were at the time, it just means that you get arrested and I was right, even though I have no evidence. I have nothing to support what I'm saying. Just because you can't prove it, I win, right? That's literally what the right expects from the government here. We as the right can say 100 insane conspiracy theories, and if you don't debunk every single one, the ones you don't, it means that, don't know what I was saying there. The ones you don't debunk, it means every one of those are true.